The sun rises over the citadel of Saladin, casting long shadows over the city. But inside the moat that surrounds the fortress, a horrific sight awaits. Lying in the mud, half naked and broken, is the body of a woman. Stray dogs are circling her remains. She has been beaten so savagely that her face is unrecognizable. The only clue to her identity is a single shimmering pearl anklet still clinging to her fractured leg. This is not a common thief or beggar. This is Shajar al-Durr. Just days ago, she was the most powerful person in the Islamic world. She was the Sultana of Egypt, the woman who brought the King of France to his knees in chains. She was a strategic genius who ruled an empire from behind the veil. How did the Queen of Muslims end up as food for jackals? Her story is not a fairy tale. It is a brutal lesson in power. It is the story of a slave who rose to the throne, only to be murdered not by an army, but by the wooden clogs of jealous women. Welcome to Chronicle 30. Today, we open the blood-stained archives of the Mamluk dynasty to reveal the true rise and tragic fall of the Iron Lady of Egypt. To understand her end, we must witness her beginning. Her origins are shrouded in mystery, lost in the slave markets of the 13th century. Historians debate whether she was Turkic or Armenian, but her destiny was sealed when she was purchased for the harem of As-Salih Ayyub, the future sultan of the Ayyubid dynasty. She was given the name Shajar al-Durr, meaning Tree of Pearls, a name that evoked beauty and luxury. But beneath the silk and perfumes of the harem, she possessed a mind sharp as a Damascus steel blade. Unlike other concubines who focused solely on beauty, Shajar al-Durr studied the art of governance. When As-Salih was imprisoned by his rivals in Karak before becoming sultan, she was the only one who stayed by his side. This loyalty forged an unbreakable bond. Upon his release and ascension to the throne of Egypt, he did the unthinkable. He freed her and made her his legal wife. The slave girl had become the queen. But the real test was yet to come. 1249, the nightmare of the Islamic world returned. The Seventh Crusade. King Louis IX of France, later Saint Louis, landed on the shores of Damietta with a massive army of knights, intent on conquering Egypt and then Jerusalem. The Crusaders were ruthless. Damietta fell quickly. The road to Cairo was open. At this precise moment of existential threat, catastrophe struck the Egyptian court. Sultan al-Salih, the only man capable of leading the defense, died of a gangrenous ulcer in his camp at Mansoura. Panic was imminent. If the soldiers knew their sultan was dead, the army would disintegrate, and Egypt would fall to the Crusaders. Shajar al-Durr took charge. She summoned the commander of the army and the chief eunuch. She told them, "The Sultan is merely sick. No one must know the truth." She initiated one of history's greatest deceptions. She had the Sultan's body secretly transported by boat to the island fortress of Rhoda. She ordered doctors to visit the empty sick room daily. She forged the Sultan's signature on decrees. Meals were sent in and returned untouched. For months she was the invisible hand, moving the pieces on the chessboard, ruling an empire in the name of a corpse. While the dead Sultan ruled, Shajar al-Durr coordinated the defense with the Mamluk commanders, particularly the ferocious Baybars. The Crusaders, led by the reckless Robert of Artois, King Louis's brother, advanced into the town of Mansoura. They thought the Egyptians were retreating. It was a trap. Shajar al-Durr approved a plan to lure the knights into the narrow, winding streets of the city. Once inside, the trap snapped shut. The Mamluks descended upon the French knights who were trapped in the alleyways, unable to maneuver their horses. It was a slaughter. Robert of Artois was killed. The Nile ran red with blood. King Louis IX tried to retreat but was captured. The image was staggering. The King of France, the most powerful monarch of Christendom, shackled in chains, held captive by a government led by a woman. Shajar al-Durr negotiated a ransom so massive it emptied the French treasury. She had saved Islam, and she had saved Egypt. When the victory was secured, the Sultan's death was finally announced. The Mamluks, recognizing her brilliance, swore allegiance to her. Shajar al-Durr was proclaimed Sultana. Coins were minted bearing her name, the Queen of the Muslims, Mother of Khalil. The Friday prayers in Cairo's mosques were dedicated to her. For 80 days she ruled as the absolute monarch. But 13th-century patriarchy had a limit. The Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad, the spiritual leader of the Muslim world, sent a scathing, humiliating letter to the emirs of Egypt. "If you have no men left in Egypt to rule you, let us know, and we will send you a man from here." It was a devastating blow. Her legitimacy was denied simply because of her gender. Shajar al-Durr, ever the pragmatist, knew she had to step down to prevent a civil war. She married Izz al-Din Aibak, a Mamluk commander, and abdicated the throne to him. But make no mistake, Aibak was the Sultan in name only. The tree of pearls still held the roots of power. For years, Aibak lived in his wife's shadow. He was a puppet, and he knew it. He couldn't even visit his other wife or open the treasury without Shajar al-Durr's permission. Resentment brewed. Aibak wanted to be a real sultan. In 1257, he made a fatal move. He sought to marry the daughter of the ruler of Mosul, a political alliance that would replace Shajar al-Durr. For Shajar al-Durr, this was not just a heartbreak, it was a declaration of war. She who had humbled kings would not be discarded like an old robe. She plotted her final gambit. She invited Aibak to the citadel for a reconciliation. Aibak, perhaps naive or arrogant, accepted. He went to the royal bathhouse to relax. As the steam filled the room, 5 powerful eunuchs, bribed by Shajar al-Durr, emerged from the shadows. The Sultan of Egypt was strangled to death, naked and defenseless, amidst the soap and steam. The next morning, she claimed he died of sudden cardiac arrest. But in the palace of vipers, no one believed in coincidences. The murder of Aibak unleashed chaos. The Mamluk army was divided, but Aibak's loyalists and his first wife, Ali, demanded blood. Shajar al-Durr attempted to bribe the commanders with the pearls she was named after, but it was too late. She was arrested and imprisoned in the Red Tower. Her execution was not public, It was personal. She was dragged to the chambers of Ali. Waiting for her were not executioners with swords, but the women of the harem, servants, concubines, and slaves. In their hands they held qabāqīb, heavy wooden bath clogs used in the hammams. The doors were locked. The mob descended. It was a slow, brutal, and humiliating death. The Sultana was beaten repeatedly with the wooden clogs, blow after blow to her face and head. The woman who had outsmarted the Crusaders could not outsmart the rage of her own gender. She died battered, humiliated, and alone. Her body was stripped of its silk finery, leaving only a pair of linen drawers. She was thrown from the high windows of the citadel into the moat below. For 3 days, the corpse of the Queen of Muslims was left to rot, feasted upon by the stray dogs of Cairo. Finally, she was buried in a tomb that still stands today, decorated with mosaics of the Tree of Pearls. Shajar al-Durr was a figure of Shakespearean tragedy. She shattered the glass ceiling of her time, proving that a woman could lead armies and rule empires. But in the end, she was destroyed by the very system she tried to master. She remains a complex symbol, a hero who saved Egypt, and a murderer consumed by power. History is written by the victors, but the echoes of the wooden clogs still ring in the halls of Cairo. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the life of Shajar al-Durr on Chronicle 30. If you are fascinated by the untold, dark side of history, make sure to like and subscribe.